Wow. Whoever thought a virus could so drastically disrupt our lives and the marketplace? Businesses have shut down. Social distancing has become the norm. And it has us all wondering when, if ever, things are going to return to normal. And what is normal even supposed to look like now? It's enough to make you believe that success is not possible, that there are too many obstacles, too many challenges in the way. But nothing could be further than the truth. There is so much opportunity in today's marketplace. If you understand the shifts, if you learn the strategies, and you know where to focus. And that is what we are going to do in this program today. Learn those strategies and those steps that you need to turn all of this uncertainty to your competitive advantage. Before we get started, I want you to take a moment to take the Thrive Indicator quiz and find out where you fall on the scale of success. All you've got to do is go to valuespeaker.com/WIT. That is valuespeaker.com/WIT, stands for Women in Trucking, to see if you are a driver, an adapter, or a reactor. Go ahead, take it now. You'll want these results as we move through this program. Great. You got it? Let's move on. So a few years ago, I became obsessed with the word uncertainty. How we think about it, react to it, adapt to it. And let me tell you, as a society, we don't like it. In fact, the research shows us that we would rather know something bad is going to happen rather than have to live in all this uncertainty. Now think about that. We would rather know something bad is going to happen than live in all this uncertainty. And that proved true as I would work one-on-one with my customers, asking them the age-old questions of, how are things going? How is business? Now, I was asking these questions back in 2018, 2019. Do you remember 2018, 2019? How good things were? Maybe we should have a moment of silence right now for 2018, 2019. But every business, no matter the size, the product they sold, or the markets they served, they all answered these questions pretty much the same. They would say that business is great. Business is really good. In fact, we are set for our best year on record. But this uncertainty. As if uncertainty always had to be a bad thing, always had to be a negative. It was that thing that we all were waiting for, no matter how great, how strong business has been. Uncertainty was the one thing that we all wait for to drop out of the sky and stop us dead in our tracks and stop our businesses and our lives from growing. And that just got me thinking, what if we flipped the script on that? What if we started to think about uncertainty as a good thing? What if we positioned it in our minds as something that didn't prevent growth, but something that actually propelled it? What if we needed uncertainty to show up to help us transform our businesses and lives and take us to a whole other level? And that put me on a mission to find businesses that had actually done that, actually turned uncertainty to strategic advantage. And believe me, there aren't many, but I was able to identify 9 companies, 9 businesses that have been around since the late 1700s, early 1800s, that are still in business, thriving today. Do you know what that means? That means they have survived world wars, economic depression, and yes, they have even survived through a pandemic. And I wanted to know why. What were they doing that was so unique, so different? And what I learned from them, I used to create my 9-step formula for thriving in uncertainty. And that, again, is what we're going to cover today in this program. When I leave this stage, this virtual stage, you will have the 9 steps in this formula that will ensure you turn all of this uncertainty to your competitive advantage. I want to begin sharing this formula by telling you a story that I think you are going to be able to relate to. Like many of you, I started this year off strong with so much optimism. And by the end of February, I thought I was headed for my best year on record. See, I make my living as a keynote speaker, which means I jump on planes, I travel around the world, and I engage with thousands of people. Then in 1 week, the week of March 9th, I will never forget it, everything changed. Not only did every speaking engagement I had and all of my revenue disappear, but my business model actually became unusable. I could no longer get on planes, no longer travel around the world, and no longer engage with thousands of people. And at first, again, probably like many of you, I panicked. I really freaked out. How was I going to make a living? I started to think about selling everything I own on eBay or delivering pizzas. And then I got mad, thinking this wasn't fair. Why was this happening to me? Then finally, and luckily, I decided to take action. The only problem was I had no idea what action to take. So I turned to this research I had been working on, and I decided to drink my own Kool-Aid, eat my own dog food, and put this formula into place in my own business, in my own life. And I am happy to report that the formula works. That by June, I had completely turned my business around. And by September of this year, I am on track to have a better 2020 than I had in 2019. Now, I share that with you because I want you to understand that whether you apply this in your personal life or your business, this formula works. Okay, I have left you waiting long enough. Let's dive into the formula. Drum roll, please. If you want to turn uncertainty to your competitive advantage, you have to begin by knowing where you are going, where you are headed, and where you want to wind up. In other words, you need to have a relentless vision, and that's strategy 1. Now, this is bigger than just having a vision, that written statement that hangs on your wall. This is about having a living, breathing vision, one that you use and keep front and center. A few years ago, there was a great story about a group of kids looking to go on a whitewater rafting trip in Northern California. And this trip took more than a year to plan. As luck would have it, a week before the trip, there were torrential rain and downpours, so much so that the normally Class 2 and 3 rapids became Class 5 rapids, making this river pretty much unrunnable. But kids being kids, they begged and they pleaded until the guide finally gave in. Gave in on one condition, and that was that these kids would need to sit through a safety talk. A safety talk that was normally 30 minutes long. Now the guide was going to make it 3 hours long. And of course, the kids agreed. And for 3 hours, the kids listened patiently as the guide talked through all the dangers on the river, the obstacles they would encounter, the downed trees, the hidden rocks, and the high water. But as much time as the guide spent on the obstacles, she spent 3 times as much time focused on what she called the positive point, the relentless vision. She went on to tell the kids that while they go down the river, they need to be aware of the obstacles, aware of the challenges in the way, but they need to be even more focused on the positive point, where their boat needs to wind up. She explained that if they focus too much on the obstacles, too much on the challenges, their boat will run right into the rocks, the downed trees, and the high water. But if they focus on the positive point, their relentless vision, that is where their boat will go. And see, it's the same in our businesses and in our lives. We need to be relentlessly focused on our vision. We need to be clear on where we are going and clear on where we want to wind up. So what is your relentless vision? Where do you see yourself on the other side of these challenging times? As you craft this, put this together, don't worry about perfection or wordsmithing. Just brainstorm your thoughts and ideas, your dreams, your vision. See, if you came home with me and you got up with me in the morning, the first thing you would notice was you would see that I look nothing like this, not even remotely like this. But you would also see that the first thing I do is grab a cup of coffee and I sit down and I read my note cards that hold my relentless vision. At lunch, I take a break and I read them again. And just before I go to bed, I review it one last time. And that is what we mean by a relentless vision. The companies and individuals that thrive in uncertain times are relentlessly focused on their vision. All right. So once you know your relentless vision, once you've got that in your mind, you know where you're headed, it's time to turn to those obstacles, challenges, those big rocks that you're going to hit on the river. Because the truth is there is so much challenge in this marketplace, and you certainly can't ignore it. You've got to pay attention. But here's the thing about challenges and change. Even the best experts help us understand how to handle those once those challenges and once those changes show up. But if you want to thrive in an uncertain marketplace, you've got to be one step ahead of those challenges, one step ahead of those changes. You've got to predict your future by creating it. And we call this strategy conditioning yourself for change. Here's the truth about change. Change can be your greatest opportunity if you see it coming. If you ignore it, change will bury you. Change is like a muscle. The more you work it, the more you talk about it, the more you think about it, and the more you brainstorm around it, the stronger you are going to be with change. And the better you get at change, the more you are going to thrive in an uncertain marketplace. All right, now get a pen and a piece of paper because I'm going to walk you through a tool that you need that's going to condition you for change. It's going to get you ready for the changes coming in the marketplace. It's going to put you one step ahead and make you thoroughly conditioned for change. And this tool is called a skeptic. Are you ready? Write down society, competition, economics, politics, technology, industry, and customers. All right, let me give it to you one more time. Society, competition, economics, politics, technology, industry, customers. And all you've got to do is make time once a month to spend 15, 20 minutes brainstorming around those words. What are the changes that you see happening politically? What are the changes that you see happening with your customers? What are the changes that you see happening with technology? Because the more that you talk about the changes coming, the more you're going to see the opportunities in the marketplace. Remember, giving yourself this opportunity gives you the chance to plan for the changes that are coming, puts you one step ahead. Look, I've been working with this tool with my clients for years. And one of my clients put this tool into place a couple of years ago. And some of the changes that they saw coming in the marketplace, they saw the fact that to attract really great talent, they were going to learn to need to work in a flexible manner, even be more remote, and that was going to require technology to do that. They started making these changes 2 years ago so that when this pandemic hit, they were way ahead of their competition. Whether competition was trying to deal with the crisis at hand, they had moved on to serving their customers. I've got another client that this tool has been invaluable in helping them understand how their customers are changing and identifying new products and services that are going to be even more valuable in the marketplace. Remember, change can be your greatest competitive advantage if you condition yourself for it. If you use this tool with your team, because your team's got to be conditioned for change too. All right. So we have 2 of the 9. We know that we have got to begin with that relentless vision. We've got to condition ourselves for change. And once you know the changes and the obstacles that are coming in the marketplace, once you're aware of those, you've got to think about how you're going to solve those challenges and how you're going to take advantage of those opportunities. And the only way to do that in an uncertain marketplace is to realize that competition now needs to become collaboration. Listen, the problems and challenges that we're facing in this marketplace, they're too big for one person, one company, one organization to solve. You've got to start to think about working together in order to do that. You've got to stop thinking about competing with others and start thinking about how you can work together. Listen, your industry's been doing this great, working together to keep the supply chains going. We're watching countries work together to come up with a vaccine. And one of my favorite examples of this comes from World War II and one of my idols, Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill realized early on that to defeat Nazi Germany, the United Kingdom could not do it on their own. So he understood that he needed to collaborate with the United States and even collaborate with a former enemy, Russia and Joseph Stalin. And he built those connections, and thank goodness he did, because I don't know where we would be today if Winston Churchill hadn't understood this principle. So you need to apply this in your own business, in your own life. What are the challenges that you're facing? Maybe you need to be more productive, more efficient. Maybe you need to open new markets in your life. Maybe you need to figure out how to take care of your kids while you're trying to work and they're in virtual school. Whatever it is, look at the obstacles and challenges that you've got and start to think about, who could I collaborate with? Who could I work with in order to solve those problems and solve those challenges? I've got a client that works in the healthcare industry. You can imagine when this pandemic hit, their business has exploded. But they had a really big challenge in that their entire sales and customer service team, they only understood how to sell and service customers in person. And I had a technology company that had been using customer service and sales. They'd been doing it online since they started. But they sold into the restaurant and hospitality industry, an industry that had been decimated. So I connected the 2 of them together, and the technology company taught the healthcare company how to sell online, how to serve customers online. And the healthcare company taught the technology company how to get into the healthcare space, an industry that's booming. See, it's not that you can't solve your own problems. It's not that you can't take care of your same issues, but you're going to find it easier, faster, and use less resources if you collaborate with others. One of the biggest keys to success in today's marketplace is to collaborate rather than compete. Now, strategy number 4 is really one of my favorite strategies because I didn't realize how powerful and important it was until I got into the research of the book. I think one of the biggest challenges that we've got right now is how do we make decisions? You know, it's interesting. I did a poll early on asking people, are you somebody when uncertainty hits that runs towards the sound of the gunfire and takes action? Or are you somebody that takes a wait and see approach, trying to figure out what's the best decision to make? Less than 20% of people said that they took action. The majority of people that answered that poll, in essence, said they were stuck. They weren't sure what decision to make. And I get it. It's hard. You don't know which decision is going to be the right decision or which decision will be fatal. Well, when I did the research on this book, one of the things that I found is that every company I researched, no matter the size of their company, the product they sold, the market they served, they made the decision in an uncertain marketplace. They made the decisions exactly the same. They made the decisions by understanding their core values. They were clear on who they wanted to be in the middle of this crisis and who they wanted to be when this crisis was over. And then they used those core values as a litmus test. If the decision aligned with their core values, they made it. If it didn't align with their core values, they passed on it. Listen, the best way to know which decisions are right for you is to align with your own core values. I was doing a keynote early on for Bobcat, and they did such a great example with this strategy. Early on, just like many of us, as soon as this pandemic hit, they immediately made decisions, kind of cutting expenses to the bone and really only doing what they needed to do to take care of their employees and serve their customers. But it didn't feel like they were making progress. It didn't feel like they were growing as an organization. The CEO went back and asked his leadership team, who do we want to be in this crisis and who do we want to be after this crisis? In essence, what are our core values? And they decided that who they wanted to be was a company that put the safety and health of their employees and their customers first, and a company that was working on finding the solutions for the long-term sustainability of their company and their customers. And that very decision not only put them on the path to growth, but it has helped them make decisions to continue to invest in research and development, to really invest in their human resources department, to really help their employees get through this crisis. And their culture has gotten better, their company has gotten better, all because they're making decisions focused on their core values. Listen, intrinsically, you know who you are and who you want to be. Use those as your guiding principles to make decision and have the faith that that's going to carry you out successfully on the other side, because the research proves that it will. All right, we are cooking with gas. We have 4 of the 9. And as we head into this 5th strategy, we're going to actually tell you how to grow in the middle of this crisis, because the truth is you can grow in the middle of this crisis. Remember, I told you at the beginning that there is so much opportunity in today's marketplace, but you've got to understand these strategies. And I'm not sure that I mentioned that these strategies work in order. They have a compounding effect. So you need to do them. You need to begin with that relentless vision. Then you need to deal with those obstacles by conditioning yourself for change. You need to replace competition with collaboration. And you need to get clear on your core and use it with your decision making and how you determine and use your values. Now, I want to do a quick check-in, and I want to make sure that you have taken the Thrive Indicator quiz, that you've gone to valuespeaker.com/WIT, stands for Women in Trucking, and you have discovered where you fall on the Thrive Indicator scale. All right, strategy number 5. When you get into the middle of a crisis and you think about trying to grow your organization, so many of us react by going after new business, by chasing anything we can find. But the research from this book showed, and it proved, that growth happens from the inside out. If you want to grow your organization, and I know that you do, you've got to secure your base. You've got to begin by focusing on your existing customers. 1, because your existing customers, if you reach out, if you touch base with them, they're going to remain loyal to you. Listen, people remember who showed up in the middle of a crisis. And this isn't the time to shy away from our customers. This is the time to come on with them. So I'm telling all of my clients, I want you to go back really the next year, maybe 2 years ago, all the people that you served and you work with. And I just want you to reach out. I just want you to connect, and I want you to check in with them. Asking them questions like, hey, just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Tell me a little bit about what's going on in your business. How are things going in your industry? Are your customers doing well? What are you focused on for the rest of 2020, 2021? Because when you ask those questions and you listen, first, you're going to send a signal to your existing customers that you are more interested in their success than you're interested in your own. Talk about differentiating yourself in the marketplace. But the second thing you're going to get is even more important, because those customers are going to tell you everything that you need to know to understand their challenges, their pain points, and their opportunities. And on top of that, they're going to tell you in their language, which is going to be the biggest gift you are ever going to get. Because when you understand their challenges, problems, and opportunities, and you understand the language they're using to communicate those, you understand now how to be relevant in today's marketplace. And the only way to grow your business is to be relevant in today's marketplace. See, what you sold before COVID can't be exactly what you're selling now, because your customers have changed, their challenges have changed, their opportunities have changed, and their problems have changed. And the best way to understand what those are is to ask them. Because when you're relevant, you're not only going to continue to hold on to your existing customers, but you're going to find new ones. My favorite story from the book about this comes from Procter & Gamble. Now, P&G was started in the early 1800s by two men who married sisters. One sold candles and one sold soap. And their future father-in-law said, boys, why don't you quit competing with one another and why don't you form a company? And Procter & Gamble, P&G, was born. Now, one of their founding core values was listening to their customers. It was how they decided they were going to grow their business. And one of their early products that's still on the market today was designed and created exactly from that, by securing their base and being relevant in the marketplace. And that product is Ivory soap. See, people loved soap, but the biggest complaint they had about it was when you used it in the bathtub, it went to the bottom and you could never find it. You always had to be feeling around for it. So they invented Ivory soap, which, if you remember the tagline from when you were a kid, it was a soap that floats. Now, Procter & Gamble has built their entire business, which is an unbelievably successful business, off listening to their customers. And you need to too. Success in today's marketplace is about being relevant and connecting with your customers. And talk about connecting, you need to be building your network. Listen, I believe if you build your network, it will change your life. And the thing you need to understand in today's marketplace is that there's no challenge, there's no problem, there's no obstacle, whether it's personal or professional, that you have, that a connection in your life can't help you solve. At any given time, we are only one person away, one connection away from somebody who can help us solve our problems, get closer to our goals, or find and get closer to our biggest opportunity. When I started researching this book, I was lucky enough to interview a true idol of mine, and that's Tom Fazio, arguably one of the greatest golf course designers in the world. Now, what a lot of people don't know about Tom is that he grew up relatively poor in eastern Pennsylvania. He didn't have the opportunity to go to college. He didn't have a lot of money, and he didn't have many connections. But he had a dream, a relentless vision to become a golf course designer. And with nowhere else to turn, he got the opportunity to work for his uncle, who was a golf course designer. But his uncle made it pretty clear that was not going to be Tom's path to success. But Tom knew if he could just get the right connections, build the right network, his dream would come true. So every year he would scrape up what little money he had and get himself to the Masters, one of the most important golf tournaments in the industry. And today, Tom can trace every golf course he's designed back to the connections he made at the Masters. So where's your Masters? What connections do you need to be making? Because if you build your network, build those connections, it will change your life. All right, we have 6 of the 9. We just have 3 strategies left. And we've been talking about connections. And one of the most important connections you can make is to strengthen your team. Listen, there is so little you can control in today's marketplace. But one of the biggest things you can control is the team that you surround yourself with. Because the stronger the team you surround yourself with, the more innovative you're going to be, the faster you're going to react to change, and the better you're going to do in taking care of your customers. The one thing that this marketplace has done is it has made it an employer's choice. And you've got to focus on really building and strengthening your team. In other words, invest in your culture. Now, the good news is you've already solved one of the biggest issues that you've got to have to build a team, and that's a relentless vision. See, people want purpose. They want to do work that matters. They want to feel like they're making a difference. And a relentless vision gives them something to believe in, something to hope for, something to be a part of. And once they understand your relentless vision, they've started to engage. They want to give you everything they've got for your organization. But you've got to ask yourself, have I built a culture that allows them to help me build my organization? Well, the way to do that is to give them ownership and skin in the game. You've got to learn to lead through the power of the question. Listen, nobody likes to be told what to do, not even you. We don't like to be told to change. We don't like to be told we've got to hit goals. But when you ask us to do these things, you simultaneously give us voice and give us responsibility. And people support what they help create. If I asked you right now that we've got to increase sales in the next 6 months, what are your ideas for increasing sales? All of a sudden, that seems very different than me telling you what to do. So as leaders, you've got to learn to lead through the power of the question and strengthen that team around you by really constantly talking about your relentless vision and giving people ownership and skin in the game. All right, we just got 2 strategies left, and these will go fairly quickly because one of the things that you need to understand in today's marketplace is that the pace of change is rapid. It's faster than we've ever known it to be. Think about how different our world was in March of this year, even June, compared to how we'll kick off 2021. And you've got to know that the strategies that you used in March won't work in July, won't work in December, and they certainly won't work as you go through 2021. So you have to shed fast and keep moving. You've got to be keenly aware of what's working in your organization and what isn't, what's working in your life and what isn't, and be ready to shed fast and keep moving. All right, I've got another tool for you to do this. It's called a seeds, a weeds, and a needs. And a seeds is simply exactly like it sounds. It's asking yourself, what are you doing well? What are you doing that's really working in your organization, in your life? What do you need to be doing more of? And your weeds are, what's holding you back? What's strangling you and choking you, just like a weed in the garden? What do you need to stop doing? And needs are, what do you need to do that you don't have? What do you need to add? I did this early on in my business, and I do it every month now. But one of the early things I noticed was that reaching out and touching customers was working for me. But what was holding me back was I was doing too much of talking to friends or checking in with friends. And I was busy, but what I needed to be was productive. So I went back and I color-coded my calendar so I could still make time to talk to my friends and have some downtime. But I needed to color-code my calendar according to green for revenue generation and red for transforming my business. And it made me so much more productive. So that's just a simple tool that you can use to be really productive in the marketplace. All right. And our last strategy, our simple last strategy, is that you need to rinse and repeat. Remember, I told you to take the Thrive Indicator quiz? Well, whether you're a driver, you're an adapter, or you're a reactor, you're going to continue to use and need this formula, and we're going to send you tips and ideas on how to do that at every single stage that you are in. All 9 steps of this formula need to be put in place, need to be put in order, and they're the strategies that you need to thrive in an uncertain marketplace. Wow. So there you have it. Those are the strategies. Those are the steps. The formula you need for turning uncertainty to competitive advantage. Now, again, before we wrap this up, I want to make sure one more time you have signed in and taken our Thrive Indicator quiz, and you now know where you fall on the scale of success. Simply go to valuespeaker.com/WIT, stands for Women in Trucking, and you'll discover if you are a driver, an adapter, or a reactor, and you'll get a customized approach for thriving in uncertainty. Understanding how to implement each one of these strategies, you begin with your relentless vision. You condition yourself for change. You turn competition to collaboration. Focus on your core, using your core values to guide you in decision making. Generate revenue and grow your business by securing your base. Build your network, it will change your life. Strengthen your team, shed fast and keep moving. And last but not least, rinse and repeat. That's it. Now you are ready to turn all of this uncertainty to your competitive advantage. Listen, I know success is not easy in today's marketplace. We can make a list of all the reasons you can succeed and all the reasons you can't. And the list of reasons you can't, it is always going to be longer than the reasons you can. But the difference, the only difference between people who succeed and people who don't, is where they focus their time and energy. Now, I think that's amazing because it's not money, it's not resources or even luck. It is where you choose to focus your time and your energy. So if you choose to focus on your 9-step formula, the one that we've talked about today, you'll not only emerge successful from this crisis, but you'll have what you need to succeed no matter what this marketplace does. I'm Meridith Elliott Powell. Thank you so much for your time today. And my passion is helping you make the transition from believing that uncertainty prevents growth to understanding how it can actually propel it. I believe if you build your network, it will change your life. Let's continue this conversation by connecting, and together we can turn all of this uncertainty to our competitive advantage.